presenting on the topic at Green ICT, help reduce political civil unrest in Central and Southern Africa. So this quote by George Santayana in 1905 says, "Those who do not remember the past are condemned to repeat it." So this is basically the idea behind my research project, in that people don't really think of what happened in the past, even though they study it. For example, in South Africa, before the xenophobia attacks of 2008, there were like a number of events that occurred before. So if they actually studied that, they'd have known that it's possible and things are actually happening. As you can see, the occurrences increased in 2007 from 2006, and the worst was in 2008. This is just an example of the images that were there back then, the less graphic images. And as you can see, in 1994 there were also attacks there, and the cases that go to court are more in percentage compared to everything else, because basically they do not trust the government since they're just coming from independence in 1994. However, in 2008, many cases were drawn in court because of the issue of lack of evidence, which is like the basis of my project as well. So the reason for choice is that xenophobia is on the rise in South Africa. There have also been attacks in 2010 on the same issues. In addition to that, there's also been political violence, which is a regular occurrence in Central and Southern Africa, before and after elections, whereby people get beaten before elections, telling them to vote for a certain party, and afterwards, because everyone thinks that they've been shortchanged somehow. And the fact is, justice is never fully served, because after the events, after the dust settles, people don't actually look for the culprits, because there's no evidence that shows that who did this or who did that. So my idea is that I'd like to use ICT to help alleviate this problem. So the key concepts of my project are in two fields, which is psychology and ICT. Whereby in psychology, I'll be researching on convergence theory in most psychology, whereby through it, I can decide whether the pattern before that happens can be noted. In addition to that, I'll also check on the causes of such attacks as well as pre-signs, whereby, according to psychology, there's something called collective effervescence, whereby when a crowd joins, there's a mood that's built. But then it doesn't start with like a whole group. It's like one person, and then they all meet and they keep on coming, keep on coming. So if we notice that before it really grows, then maybe we can assist in reducing the violence. And also, there is a concept known as the bystander effect, which is whereby, let's say there's a crowd happening, right? And then there are other people on the outskirts who are just watching and not doing anything to stop the crowd. That's known as the bystander effect. So my theory is that maybe through CCTV, since they're aware of what's happening, unfortunately the crowd is not aware through convergence theory of what's happening, since they are just one mind, so they'll actually notice that there are CCTV cameras around. However, the bystanders have a better chance of realizing and knowing where they are, and thinking, maybe if the CCTV sees me, then I won't be held like guilty because I didn't do anything to help. So in ICT, I'll be investigating on the uses of CCTV systems, especially in the UK when it was implemented in 1997, before and after. In addition to that, I'll also check on the level of ICT development in Central and Southern Africa, so I can see whether it's feasible to implement it as well. And also, my project doesn't just focus on CCTV. It also involves the use of databases, whereby we collect information, like something happens in an area, and then we collect that information. Then after a while, we realize that this area has more occurrences of violence compared to these areas. Thereby, we assign more resources, like more CCTV cameras or more police forces to that area too. In addition to that, I'll also introduce the idea of green energy, which is solar energy, since there's a green revolution happening. So through that, since electricity is actually not that much in Africa, so I prefer to use solar energy, as well as wireless networks over wired networks, since this is actually quite cheaper. And I'll also investigate ushahidi, which, as Tina explains, does that too. So my main hypothesis is that basically, if crime rate is related to the use of ICT, then implementing ICT can help reduce crime rates. So this is basically my work plan. Emphasis on the start, the finish, and the middle. So, progress update. I have narrowed the scope of psychology, since psychology is like a really big field, from the three theories actually. There's convergence theory, contagion theory, and emergent norm theory. So I've decided on convergence theory, since that's the one that's more aligned towards issues like xenophobia and political violence. And I've also collected information on the case study I'll be doing, which is on Kenya, the attacks from 2007, as well as the xenophobia attacks of 2008 in South Africa. And as I said earlier, there are many, many events that led to the xenophobia in 2008. In addition to that, I've noticed that CCTV does not deter crime relating to convergence theory. So, according to that theory, I read on the book by Emma Goldman, who was an anarchist, Psychology of Political Violence. And also, I have realized that CCTV is very effective when it comes to prosecution, and in addition to that, I've also found possible implementation methods. As an example was given by a professor on the websites that are used in Texas. And I've also began researching on CCTV in the UK, as I said earlier, before and after its implementation in 1997. So this is just a basic idea of the expected output, whereby each region, let me explain. Alright, so the system will be a wireless system with CCTV units and distributed databases, whereby there'll be regional stations. For example, in a country, like let's say these are different provinces, so in each province it will have its own regional station, which I refer to as an RS. So the regional station collects the CCTV data, since it's not feasible actually to stream all the data to the capital city. So after collecting that information, they'll send the relevant information to the central database. And the database also, in each area, will also collect information, and that information, they'll analyze it there, and after that, send it so it can all be collated for all regions. Okay, so as I said, the data will be sent to the capital, where statistical analysis, where the data is analyzed, as I said in the introduction. And I believe that this may help in determining the trends that result in xenophobia and political violence. And there's also a concept known as DPA, which is basically the detection, the prosecution, and the analysis of information. So I've given an example scenario by detection. A group of rebels is seen attacking an area through the surveillance system. Then one of the people who monitor the system notifies the superior. Then the superior deploys forces to that area. So basically, after viewing the efficiency, like the response efficiency, how fast and how effective they are, we can then determine whether we should send more forces there or just leave it as it is. Then prosecution. In the aftermath, after everything has happened, after the dust settles, we can then prosecute the people through the use of CCTV, as shown below, so we can bring justice to the place. And then there's analysis, whereby we analyze the data that has been collected, and then we see that which areas are most affected, the least affected, and which ones should be assigned more resources than other areas. So that's my presentation.